Hello, this is Dr. Harriet Fraad.
And I'm Juliana Forlano, here with our podcast, Capitalism Hits Home.
This is a show about the intersections of gender, race, and class with capitalism, and shows how they mutually shape each other and are inextricable, like milk in coffee.
We aim to educate, activate, and even alleviate some of the burdens we all experience living in a capitalist USA.
We hope this show serves you well. It's brought to you by Democracy at Work.
Our main topic for the show today will be the intersection of sex, sexuality, and capitalism. I am very excited to speak with you, Harriet, about this topic. I know we prepared in advance, but so I already know sort of what's coming. And I just am so grateful to be able to create this podcast with you about this topic. It's such a big topic that we decided we'd dive right in with the story that sparked the idea for the episode. So we're kind of tossing aside our personal stories that we usually start with because we kind of want to dig into the meat of it. Right, Harriet?
You bet.
All right. I don't know if y'all, the general y'all, read the piece by Nicholas Kristof, the opinion columnist and former Republican, current Republican, conservative, I think, The Children of PornHub. Oh, my gosh. Okay. When I read it, it was incredibly disturbing. First of all, the article was really about how this particular website, PornHub, is profiting off the rape of children and non-consensual sex with children or adults videos that are uploaded to their community. I'm going to read you a little bit from the article so we can all kind of be on the same page. But if you can stomach the entire article, it's in the New York Times. You can just Google it. It's all over the place now because it's had quite an effect. And also, if you can stomach what we're about to present, there is some good news about, some things that have come out of the fact that Nicholas Kristof published this article. I will be commenting on Kristof's angle and some of the things he didn't do. And I will be taking him to task for some of those things. Like, for example, the photo of the girl who was, was abused by the site and who has had multiple suicide attempts. And the way they took the photo of her, Brian's going to put it up on the screen for us here. She is looking off into the distance. Her breasts are front and center. She is very young looking. And although she is fully covered from neck to wrist, it's a sexualized photo of someone looking off, and if you've studied this area, in depth, you'll know that sort of looking off in pornography is a way to allow the male gaze to sort of drop onto the body. And this is a young woman who, if you read the story, you will find that she engaged in a sexual act. She was an A student, engaged in a sexual act with a boy at school. I think it was sending pictures back and forth, and then he shared them with all of his classmates. He shared them on PornHub, and she was shamed. The boy was, I think he was suspended, but that's for how long? He's back at school. She left school because of all of the shaming. Another woman on the site said that PornHub became my trafficker. This is a quote. She says her name is Callie. She said she was adopted in the United States from China and then trafficked by her adoptive family and forced to appear in pornographic videos beginning when she was 9 years old. Some videos of her being abused ended up on PornHub and regularly reappear there because people download them and re-upload them, even if they are taken off, which they usually are not. This is her quote from the article. I'm still getting sold, even though I'm 5 years out of that life. She is thankfully in university, hoping to become a lawyer. but those old videos hang over her. Direct quote from the article. I may never be able to get away from this. I may be 40 with 8 kids and people are still masturbating to photos of me at 9 years old. The issue here is not pornography, but rape. Let's agree that promoting assaults on children or anyone without consent is unconscionable. This is directly from the article. The problem with Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein or Jeffrey Epstein was not the sex, but the lack of consent. And so it is with Pornhub. Kristof, who did a lot of research on this, he said he came across many videos on Pornhub that were recordings of assaults on unconscious women and girls. That rapists would open the eyelids of the victims and touch their eyeball to show they were non-responsive before they were raped. So this is the story, right? Facebook removed 12.4 million images related to child exploitation in a 3-month period this year. Twitter closed 264,000 accounts in 6 months last year for engaging in the sexual exploitation of children. Harriet, I'd love if you could comment about just the sexual exploitation of children and the intersection it has with capitalism. There's so much to talk about here. I'm just like bubbling over, and I hope I gave you a general idea of that report that Kristof did. By the way, I wanted to comment. He puts up the photo of the girl, the victim, and he didn't put up the photos of the owners, not the owners, but the people who run Pornhub. So we're going to do that here for a public shaming. Brian is putting the pictures up for us. Brian's our producer. I mean, these guys look, the one guy looks exactly like you would imagine. And the other guy, is he not holding a pink? It looks like he's holding a child wrapped in a pink blanket. The child has been cropped out of the photo. So anyway, the Times said the owner of Pornhub is anonymous. And I'm like, really, Nick Kristof? How about you do your investigative journalism job and find out really who that is? These guys are the people who run it. They will be the fall guys. And it was actually very difficult for me to find a photo of them. So spread this far and wide, please, because they need to be brought into the public. I don't know why Nick Kristof couldn't find out who the owner of Pornhub is. Maybe he did find out and just decided it was too disturbing to print. Like perhaps it's owned by some hedge fund that unsuspecting workers support with their 401ks or something. Just slightly a letdown, Nick, in that area. Sorry, I asked you a question, Harriet, and then I went off in my zeal to talk about all the things that I wanted to present here. Your thoughts about, I was so disgusted and reviled by this article. Can you talk at all about how child pornography is even a thing and how it intersects with our capitalist economy that we live under?
Well, our capitalist economy exploits sex every chance it gets. First of all, it brings people up with shame. Unlike the other developed countries of the world, we don't learn about our bodies in school because the puritanical lobby prevents it. So that in a country like France, you can get a morning after pill from the school nurse because it's no big deal, and there are condom machines every few street corners. In all the Scandinavian countries and the Netherlands, sex education begins in kindergarten, where you learn about the bee pollinating the flower, and if the bee doesn't have pollen and pollinate the flower doesn't bloom. Okay, and it doesn't make a fruit. And then by the time you're in middle school, you learn about the male and female bodies, how they develop. In high school, you start learning about relationships and sexuality, what you owe to yourself, what you owe to a partner, what is your responsibility, and what is your responsibility to a life that you may create this way. That's a very different attitude. It's sex as relationship, not as sensation. And since we have a puritanical lobby, most American children learn about sex from pornography, which is sexploitation. It's an exploitation of sex to make money. PornHub costs money. You subscribe for these images so that PornHub is a profitable capitalist company. In every other ad that you see has some woman's body draped over it because we have a sexually deprived culture where children don't learn that sex is a part of life and that you owe yourself and you owe a partner consideration because you're both human beings and you understand your bodies and you understand this is a relationship. So instead, it's a shamed need tinged by religion, which sexually shames. It's interesting that in the island of Tahiti, rape never occurred until the missionaries got there and made people ashamed to be sexual. Otherwise, it was part of life, it was fine. And so it takes not only the deprivation of sex, but the responsibility for women to stop what are supposedly men's bestial drives. And it also gives men very few emotional outlets, very few areas of allowable need outside of a need for sex, while it tells women to withhold sex, a very bad combination. And the men who exploit children, the men who
No, go ahead.
exploit children want sex with someone who they can totally dominate. A frightened child gets some people off because he is totally in control, whereas otherwise, in the society, women are trained to deny sex. And it takes them back to their youth, their adolescence, where they want to explore because it's the only area of need they're allowed. They can't need tenderness or hugs or understanding, but needing sex is real prestigious. And so that
Harriet.
they exploit women. Okay, your turn.
Oh no,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I think sometimes in the connection, there's a pause and then the article to me was so repulsive and vile that it literally made me lose my faith in humanity. And it made me also appreciate how my old Italian grandmother, with her old Italian suspicions from the small village, which I poo-pooed as old country insanity, not valid in America. Well, she was right to be suspicious when she kept me under her skirt, basically, and warned me that there were men out there who would steal me and, quote, ruin me. She never said how, but from the tone, it sounded rather ominous. And it is quite, I was like, come on, what are you talking about? And reading this article, I'm like, oh, this is a real thing. There are people out there who will grab kids and traffic them. I mean, first of all, I don't know how to bring up a kid in these conditions. I want her, my own daughter, to be happy and have sort of a joyful, protected childhood, but you also want her to be aware that the world is full of nice and not nice things. And it causes me to be resentful that because capitalism drives this, if it wasn't such a money maker, I think for PornHub they make a ton of money. By the way, they're nominally based in, I believe it's Luxembourg. So they don't pay any taxes on their money. And then they're run in Canada where, they're supposed to, Canada, what's the prime minister in Canada is supposed to be, oh yeah, he's supposed to be a feminist, but he allows this to, keep going. I don't know why Canada would host a company that inflicts rape videos on the whole world, but I guess that's a question. That's a question for Canada. I don't know, Harriet. I've gone off the rails here because it's just absolutely so disturbing to me that
it is, and it's capitalist
happens.
exploitation. Porn in the United States is a huge industry, $17 billion a year, more than all the sports franchises combined. And it's built on heterosexual porn is different from homosexual porn. Heterosexual porn is built on domination of women who seem to want to be raped by 6 people or have cum shots all over their face or whatever. And it's sex as domination, not as relationship, not as mutuality, not as consent. Women always melt when they're accosted rather than be terrified. There is, and that is the dominant way that young Americans are sex educated. since they're denied another message. And porn is everywhere and very profitable. If it weren't profitable, it would never be everywhere. And so that it is
Well,
inextricably commingled with capitalism, with making money out of sex. And the more porn there is, the more you have to get an edge by having child porn, by having bestiality, by pushing the envelope further and further so that you can compete with the other pornographers to go further, so that you can get the edge and you can make more money. It's about money. It's about exploiting sex for money instead of making sex a natural need of which no one has to be ashamed, and making people's bodies perfectly acceptable and not an issue of shame. In
in our
Norway,
in
they
our
had,
second half of the program, oh,
I just want to say this because I think it's important. In Norway, one of the things that they're doing for indoor assemblies when they invite some speakers is they have several speakers naked. Older men, younger men, old women, fat women, skinny women. They have them speak
I
naked
love
so
this.
people can have a sense that a body is a natural thing, that there are all kinds of bodies, and that having a body doesn't mean that you aren't an authority on whatever you're speaking about. And kids are invited to
Oh,
ask questions afterwards, not only about the topic they're addressing, but how come you're naked? So it's a
I
very
love it.
fun attitude. Love
That
it
is
too.
genius. And just hearing about it is liberating. It's so outside of what we experience here. And I know women who are younger than me are having a different experience, but equally oppressive in a number of ways. We're going to talk in the second half of the program about, which we're probably in already, about um, continue about sexuality under capitalism, but unleashed from this topic of the Pornhub. I just want to give a follow up here. In the wake of the Kristof article, Pornhub's business partners faced mounting pressures to cut ties with the platform, particularly payment processors like Visa and MasterCard. PayPal, even before the article, had pressure on them and they said, fine, we're not going to let you use PayPal to pay for these rape videos. And in the second half, we'll discuss if pornography and sex positivity can actually intersect. But right now, basically, people are paying using their MasterCards and Visas for child rape. Cause, if they couldn't pay with Visa and MasterCard, there would be no call for these videos. You work the market in order to tamp down the call. Sure, there'd still be a call, whatever. Let's leave that aside. But the senior vice president and executive director of the National Center on Sexual Exploitation said that Pornhub needs to be shut down. She says that companies like Visa and MasterCard who partner with Pornhub are profiteering from the rape of children. And she does not mince words. So seeing that the party was over in terms of, their economic bottom line being hit by this Kristof article where Visa and MasterCard were not going to allow, I guess no one's using Discover, their Diners Club, whatever. They were not going to allow their company to be used to pay for Pornhub. They announced a new set of policies. Pornhub announced a new set of policies aimed, the article says they were aimed at keeping non-consensual videos off the site, but I think if they were properly reporting it, they were aimed at keeping money going into the site after this scathing report came out. The site will no longer accept uploads from unidentified users, which should stop the flow of, say, the videos of the high school students, videos of, God knows who else is on there. Children, a significant shift. This is a significant shift for a company that built its platform on those non-professional uploads. In the short term, it's going to restrict uploads to content partners and members of the platform's model program. Although Pornhub plans to roll out, that's what they say, a broader verification process in the coming year. Once content has been uploaded, Pornhub is going to be blocking the downloading content entirely, no longer letting users export content from their site outside of the paid downloads triggered through the company's verified system. But anyone who knows how to use certain software, which I will not name, but every single person has it on their computer, it comes with computers. Not going to give anyone any ideas. They can still download these videos. They can still screen copy them. They can still share them. The blocking of downloading, I believe, is just a legal maneuver to avoid liability, saying, well, we don't let you download, knowing full well that everybody already knows how to do that, or most, especially young people. People will find a way. But hopefully these child porn lovers don't know how to use their computers. Pornhub has also pledged to increase moderation of content on the platform through the newly established, what they're calling a red team, which is dedicated to proactively sweeping content. The company's pledged to publish its first transparency report. So all of a sudden, they've cleaned it all up, and they lied. They said that come on. They said, get this, that the changes were because of an independent review launched way back in April, aimed at eliminating all illegal content. They were very concerned about this. But of course, it comes 4 days after the Kristof editorial, which triggered a huge, significant backlash, including what this show is. And that backlash is what gave me hope for humanity after having read about all the deranged
viewers. Yeah. However,
folks,
they will certainly monitor this as long as they feel they're watched. The normalization through putting it on your Visa and MasterCard is making rape of children a normative activity in our society. Ugh. And doing that because selling Pornhub, taking advantage of people's shame and wish to exploit helpless people, is worth subscribing to. It's worth money. And our main topic today is sex and capitalism. And because
from a psychological perspective, if we take away how can we remove people's desire? How can we mitigate societally people's desire to oppress a helpless person? Is it their own sense of helplessness that they are projecting? Wouldn't a socialist society where you have sort of control over your own workplace, and if you're controlling your own workplace, you have a say in the vote of, whether they move your company to Mexico, wouldn't having more control, more personal control, wouldn't that have some sort of psychological effect? I'm not saying these people aren't sickos. I'm just saying, isn't there a societal component to driving this insanity?
There is, because we don't have what many of them have, which is collective control. They either have a society with lots of co-ops like Italy does, or they have strong socialist, anarchist, communist, and other left parties in which they feel that when something happens, they have some control over their lives. When I was in France, the government tried to take away free childcare, which starts at 2 years old and is 100% enrolled. Children start public school in excellent little schools at 2 years old, and they wanted to cut back on that. There were so many hundreds of thousands of people in the streets. They couldn't, because when something happened to them, they thought, we must get together to stop it, and we can. Sort of like what Black Lives Matter did. Once people watched the lynching of George Floyd on television with a knee in his neck, they mobilized. And one person walking outside with a sign would have been insignificant. 15 million people took to the streets to say, stop killing Black people. And that has
and they're a powerful movement.
They are a powerful movement, and they're part of people's collective consciousness of an outrageous racist injustice. Just like when women march for Take Back the Night and, have slut walks, they march for, I can dress the way I want. A rape is not the fault of someone's clothes. It's the fault of the rapist. Come on. These are collective events that help people not feel helpless against the injustices they see. Americans have been brought up to think that individualism is everything, even though we don't have power unless we're a collective, unless we're enormously rich, and that's 1% of the population. So, hello, we've got to get together on the basis of common grievances, whether we're white, black, whatever gender we are, however it is. We've got, and as a working class, the class that does the work that makes the 1% rich, we have to get together. And that empowers us. So that I think in that kind of society, porn would be much less watched. I know it's much less watched in Sweden, where people grow up with a sense of sex as a normal part of life and a normal part of a relationship. When I was in Sweden, I walked into the bathroom and there were signs all over the walls. There were big posters of happy penises putting on condoms saying, when you're going out, remember me, the little condom man. They had
I
tuxedos
love it.
on, hippie outfits. But, and there were signs on men's.
Please, Brian, get a photo of that and put it on here. I need a photo. We want the image.
You have it. I didn't think of taking a picture, but on every bathroom, male and female bathroom, there's we have a changing table for fathers as well as mothers.
Harriet, I hate to do this to us because, again, I feel like we just started, but we only have 2.5 minutes left, and we didn't even get to your topic. We had a whole, Harriet has a whole plan. So we're going to put that on the next week's podcast. We are off for the holiday break, but when we return in January, we will do the topic because Harriet is an expert here in this area of the intersection of sex and capitalism. So I know we got derailed with Pornhub because it was so awful, but but I look forward to that conversation.
I do too, because sexploitation is huge in the United States and it's omnipresent.
In January, we're also going to be starting a 7-part series, the 7 basic human needs that should be protected from the capitalist marketplace. This was Harriet's idea, which I think is genius. Now, what do you think they are? We have our ideas, but we would like to hear yours. Please add them to the comments below and send us your feedback. We love hearing from you. Just some special thanks as we round out the show to Brian Ipsum, Maria Carnamola, Menia, Liz Phillips, and the whole team at Democracy at Work for making this podcast possible. And thank you, our listeners, our viewers, and our supporters, be you a financial supporter or a spread the word online supporter, or just someone who just likes us. Again, we are, I think I'll just make this quick because we didn't make the sort of request that if you do have extra money and you can help support us, we would like to become self-supporting. Right now, we are supported by Democracy at Work, and I don't know if they're going to be able to support us weekly, and we enjoy coming to you weekly for much longer. So we would like to be self-supporting. So go to Patreon. I'm watching the countdown clock. Go to Patreon patreon.com/capitalism hits home. And if you can make a recurring donation there, that would be wonderful. Harriet, I'm sorry that
That's
these
okay.
topics.
Look, we have a huge topic. Exploitation of sexuality under capitalism is a huge topic. And so we can visit it again this week. And thank you to our listeners, and thank you to our supporters, and thank you to Democracy at Work that make all of this possible.
You can find us all online at Democracy at WRK. That's on Twitter, on Instagram at Democracy at WRK. I'm Juliana Forlano on Twitter. Give me a follow. And Harriet's website is Harriet Fraad, HARRIET FRAAD.com. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.